Plan for the worst and hope for the best. Here's 5 things that can blow your budget when buying sight unseen. So something we do as investors sometimes is we buy sight unseen. It's not a bad thing, but you do have to take other things into consideration. Number 1, the foundation. We're here in front of this house that I bought sight unseen. I was told the foundation was fantastic. Turns out this little jewel didn't really have any foundation at all. Actually came to me from a contractor we used to do a lot of business with. He said, Leah, I bought 3 lots, one of them has a house on it, and I think it'd be a great house for you to do a deal on. And so I talked to my husband.
And I said, don't buy it.
Yeah, he did say don't buy it. But I bought it anyway. From here you could see it. Underneath the house there was what's called bodark, and a bodark is a type of wood that's insect and rot resistant. So it takes a very long time for it to break down, but there is no way it would pass any type of buyer inspection. This could have been absolutely devastating because you wouldn't have had enough money to finish. And if you can't finish a house, you're going to take a loss on it. So the first thing I had to do was say, okay, here goes the budget. I spent $6,000 getting the foundation fixed with the lifetime warranty. When you're looking at the photos of a property, you can see cracks in the wall and you can see like doors that have shifted. What you can't see is a complete slope. The photographer that's taking pictures of that house is going to show that house in its best light. It's not going to show you that while you're standing over here, you feel kind of like you're going over here. What you can't see is while you're walking across that floor, the floor is going squeak, 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 squeak. That's called a spongy floor. So you can find soft spots in floors when you're walking across it, but you can't see that from a video or from a photo. That is foundation. Foundation can cost you quick a lot of money and blow your budget before you even get started. Tip number 2, the roof. The roof is a big ticket item. Now we replaced the roof on this house with a 30-year roof. When you're doing a 20-year roof or a 30-year roof, and a buyer's mind, they hear 20-year roof, they say, wow, they went kind of cheap. I wonder what else they went cheap on. They hear 30-year roof and they're like, $20,000. I did not spend $20,000 on this roof. So what did it actually cost me, the difference? This is a Tamco charcoal 30-year roof. Cost me an additional $6 per square, and in a buyer's mind, it's gonna be huge. Sometimes it makes a little more sense to spend a few more cents to increase the value in their mind, and especially if it's something you spend a little extra and it increases it exponentially. Fortunately, it's easy enough to get a scope of your roof by using an online service. I use roofscope.com and I buy the cheap $11 report. It gives me all I need to know for how many squares of shingles that roof is going to cost me. I can get a pretty accurate pricing on that roof, even though I'm buying sight unseen. What I can't see though is I can't see that decking. So unless I go up into that attic, I can't tell if I'm going to be replacing sheets of decking or not. And I will tell you that at $35 a sheet, you better plan for that. Tip number 3, electrical. This panel box did have the cover on it. The brand of panel box automatically alerted me to the fact it has aluminum wiring. Because of that, I knew I was going to be replacing this panel box just because of the type of panel box it was. They are a fire hazard. It's amazing this house didn't already burn down. You can see that electrical panel box that is ripped all to shreds. It's got wires going everywhere. But what you can't see are plugs that don't work, switches that don't work, because they're not going to take pictures of that if there's burning wire in the property. You could lose your entire budget and your project on faulty wiring. So my budget on rewiring this house was $5,200, and that's exactly where we are. But for an inexperienced flipper, you hear, I've got to rewire a house, and your brain is just going, oh, $10,000. Well, if you call just your handy little whoever pops up on your first Google search, it's going to be more than that. You once again have to build these relationships with these contractors. You want to do this over and over and over again. And each time you do it, you learn something new. Tip number 4, plumbing. Plumbing is another major ticket item. Our goal is to spend as little as we can and utilize anything still valuable in the property. Once we lifted the foundation and removed those tree stumps and actually put in some real piers, we went ahead and tested our main sewer line at that time because it's cast iron. It was fine, there were no issues. We went ahead and did changing our valves out, getting ready for new fixtures, passed our green tags on our rough-in inspections, and then I just had this feeling because the house had started to shift a little, and that's normal. So I wanted to go ahead and test it again. When he did, looks under the house, we have a sieve, and it's going everywhere. So we ended up spending, we had budgeted $2,500. We've actually spent $3,800, including replacing that main sewer line. Replacing anything after the fact, anything that you've already cleaned up and you've got your house beautiful, costs you money. And I'm not talking little money. You can see if there's a toilet in that bathroom or not. What you can't see is that toilet hasn't worked for 5 years. What you can see is that it has a shower. What you can't see is that shower has been so plugged up that when you run the water, you flood the bathroom. And trust me, if there's a bathroom that has a toilet that hasn't worked in 4 years, it's gonna have the lid closed. So that's a little hint on that one. On sight unseen purchase, you need to plan that the plumbing is just bad. Tip number 5, HVAC. You need to plan that those units, no matter how good they look, probably don't work. Unless they can get very good pictures where they get right up there showing you the date and the serial number on there, you'll know that if it's a year old, I'm probably in pretty good hands with that. But it may not work. I have been in houses that have units that are 2 years old that somebody did something and they burned out all the motor in it and it doesn't actually work. So you gotta, again, plan on buying a unit. So if you wanna learn more about making a budget and the scope of work and see one of my own projects, subscribe. So if the house is going to be worth $100,000 on its best day, you need to buy that house at 70% or $70,000, then minus the repair. So you got $70,000 minus repair. Let's say it takes you $20,000 to fix that house. You need to buy that house at $50,000. So you've got to convince that seller to take that. And that's not always so easy.